welcome back to Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis show. It's coming to you live from the Multi-TV studios. This is your Joy News channel. It's also live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra and on Love FM in Kumasi and over a dozen affiliate stations across the country. All over the world, you are listening to us at myjoyonline.com or multi-TV world/streams. You could also be listening to us on your tuning app. And then we are also available subsequently on the ABN television Sky channel 235 in the UK and elsewhere in Europe. Once again, I say welcome. And we'll deal with the judgment debt matters that will dominate the discussion today, particularly the Sole Commissioner's report, which within 2002 is it, and at the point when the commission was set up, payments that we made only for solicitors or lawyers to deal with the matters of those judgment debts for us totaled over or nearly 43 million Ghana cedis. We'll get to find out all the details that you need to know on that report. But first of all, very briefly, let me get onto the phone lines and speak to Linda Ofori-Kwafo. Okay, sorry. I just understand that the line has dropped to her, but Linda Ofori-Kwafo is with the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition. This week, you may have heard that Parliament is in the process of passing two most important bills. Number one, the review of the asset declaration law, and number two, the right to information law. These are very two significant bills that have been in the House for a while. Now, it does appear that the parliamentarians have some problems, particularly with the review of the asset declaration law. The mischief, it appears, from the GII consortium, that is the Ghana Integrity Initiative, and its members. They have a consortium which has the aim of ensuring that there is some reform to the anti-corruption laws of the country. And they suggest that we should be on the alert and not allow Parliament to pass the bill in its current status, in its current state, without a review that includes verification of the assets declared and publication of same. We want to find out briefly from Linda Ofori-Kwafo of the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition why this call and why now. Members of Parliament's committee dealing with the bill appear to suggest that they are too late in calling for what they are asking for because they have passed the process without these very two. But the critical question that is being asked is, why in the first place was that law taken back to Parliament? Was it not for the purposes of making sure that the assets that are declared by public officials are verifiable, at least by the Auditor General? He should be able to open that envelope and see what you have put in that envelope. And secondly, that there should have been the need for those assets to be published so that all of us will get to know what they own or do not, and that if they are going to acquire anything illegally, we should be able to challenge. Okay, thank you very much, Linda Ofori-Kwafo, for joining us here on Newsfile this morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having.
Great. Now, you say that you want to put all of us on the alert as citizens, and particularly the media and anti-corruption stakeholders, to ensure and insist that in the review of the law regarding asset declaration, it should not be concluded without an aspect of verification of the assets declared and publication of those assets. Why do you make this case?
Thank you very much, Samson. The Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, together with the Ghana Integrity Initiative and Send Ghana, have a consortium implementing an anti-corruption project over a 4-year period. As part of the project, we organized an expert meeting which reviewed the current reviews of anti-corruption laws in the country. And we actually realized that the asset declaration regime we currently have, which is Act 550, is being captured in the Conduct of Public Officers Bill under Section 4 of that bill. And that bill is actually more or less taking the same things that we had in...
All right, too bad. We'll get to her and then finish up with her. It should have been a very brief discussion with her in about 5 minutes, but unfortunately the phones are disappointing us. Linda Oforikwafu is with the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, and you just heard her begin to make their point there. Let me quickly introduce my guests who are already in the studio to you, and then we'll continue with the discussion. When I'm done with Linda, we'll go to Tanansi, we'll go to Bolga in the capital of the Upper East region, and to speak with the NPP to find out why they have issued a notice to defire the police. The police say they should not hold their campaign rally on a particular day at a particular spot because the president will be in town, and more importantly, because the NDC has also secured the same venue for the same purpose at the same time. They say, well, they were first in time, and the police cannot act in the manner they are doing. In that regard, they will defy the police. And they have some issues with the Electoral Commission as well, as far as the by-election in that constituency is concerned. Now, Abdul Malik Kweku Bako is the editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. Good morning, Abdul Malik, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, my brother.
Great. And today, I'm exceedingly excited to have my very learned senior and good friend, Tony Forson, who's the National Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Bar Association, right here in the studio. Good morning, senior, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Sam.
It's been a long time of trying to get you into the studio. All right, good to have you, right? We will soon be joined by Alhaji Inus Afuseni, who is Minister for Roads and Highways and MP for Tamale Central. Now, Linda Oforikwafu is back on the line. Linda, thank you very much. Continue the point you were making.
Okay, Samson, my point is that Act 550, the old legislation, after the current legislation, which contains asset declaration legislation, has certain known limitations. And we've been advocating for this for some time now, and nothing much has been achieved. The problems are, one, verification, and two, publication. Verification, they are in two forms. The limitations are that the current regime, when a public officer required to declare the assets goes to the Auditor General's office and then declares the assets, we are told that the declaration, the written declaration, is kept in an envelope, sealed and kept. Nothing, no form of verification. It is not even open for the Auditor General's office to know whether the form has been completely filled or not. Nothing of that sort happens. Then you declare your assets. You name all the properties that you have. But then nobody does any form of verification. Nobody travels to the place to see whether the buildings you have mentioned are really located at the point or the whatever. Nothing of that sort happens. The next thing is that there is no publication. The name of the legislation is what? Public Office Holders Declaration of Asset. Declaration supposed to be made public. But currently, they are not made public. They are kept under lock and key until there is a need, or the Commission of Human Rights and Civil Justice requires that that document should be brought for them because somebody had made a complaint, to them to the extent that, to the fact that you have contravened in the declaration of that asset. Until that happens, none of that sort happens. The current bill, which is the Conduct of Public Office Bill, which is being considered in Parliament, has the same limitations. I've been reading the bills this morning, and I see a provision of clarification that seems to be dealing with our call for verification, but it is still not clear. And we are saying that the consultant, the GI consultant, wants us to be very explicit in the current bill being discussed. When it passed into law, the implementation of the act will be very effective in our efforts to fight corruption in the country.
I've heard at least two members of the committee in Parliament, that's the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, and they say, Constitutional Affairs, they say that what you are asking for is just asking too much. That first, there ought to be verification, and then second, their assets should be published for the whole world to see. Why? They say you are asking too much.
You're not asking too much. an asset declaration regime is supposed to serve the purpose for which we are making this request. Everywhere in the world, there is nowhere that you declare as actually in the advanced jurisdiction that we keep on looking on to so far as that a democracy is concerned. When you declare asset, if I Google right now, I should be able to find President Obama's declared assets on the net. We don't have same here. We have it. What is the essence then of declaring an asset and then keeping it under lock and key? That is the things we are calling for. Why do you want to review a legislation, now bring it under a new act, and then still maintain the problems that we have with that legislation? Asset declaration now in Ghana is a white elephant. One, nobody is even enforcing it, and two, when it's even declared, it's not serving the purpose for which it's supposed to serve, to help us minimize corruption in the country.
There's a portion of your statement which reads, a review of the regime under the Conduct of Public Officers Act without a mandatory requirement of verification and publication will therefore mark such backward progress in a democracy as such declarations were gazetted even under Ghana's Provisional National Defense Council's PNDC military regime.
Yes, Samson, that is what we are saying. If we have to move forward, then we should be able to address the basic problem. We are only asking for two, and these two should be considered. We actually also saying this because not too long ago, we had information that Parliament referred the Conduct of Public Office Bill to the Commission for Human Rights and Justice and other bodies who discussed it somewhere in Koforidua. And we are saying that the process is still ongoing. So consider our request and make sure at least verification is done. Otherwise, people can still acquire assets and keep it under in secret, and nothing else will be that the purpose or the intention of the act would not be achieved if we continue doing or implementing the same mistakes we have. Our current law is a white elephant. It is of no use to us in our efforts to fight corruption in this country. We are requesting for two simple things: verification in all the two forms, verification when you declare, verification when you go and make sure that the assets declared are really assets that you can find or can lay hold on. And the last part is publicize this.
Okay.
Let us know, because you're supposed to declare assets and other related, that of yourself and that of maybe a close relative, which we know they will not do. But at least the publication of that is very, very important to our cause to minimize corruption in this country.
Thank you very much, Linda. Linda Oforukwafo is with the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, and on this platform speaking on behalf of the Ghana Integrity Initiative Consortium, which is implementing a program or a project that is seeking a review of anti-corruption laws in Ghana so that they will be brought up to speed with current democratic, tenets. Alhaji Inusa Fuseni has joined us now. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
You are a member of parliament. If we could just start briefly on this point, maybe 2 minutes of comments each from all of you so that we move on with the other substantive matters, even though I agree that is a very serious issue, really. And I see that you are holding their press statement and you are reading it also. They are saying simply that the assets are supposed to be declared. That's why it is called asset declaration. Yet, the current law, you do a declaration on a piece of paper, put it in an envelope, seal it, give it to the Auditor General as a custodian. The Auditor General doesn't have the power to even open up and check and be sure that on that piece of paper you have put anything on there. Secondly, that it ought to be published, and they refer to a military regime where these things were gazetted so that people can have access to them. Their major concern is that if these things are not done, the Ghanaian people who are supposed to report or make complaints about subsequent assets acquired but not declared and which have been acquired wrongly through acts of corruption, they will not be in a position to know and to be able to report these matters.
Yes, thank you so very much, Samson, and good morning to your listeners and viewers. What the Anti-Corruption Coalition is trying to do is to expand the frontiers of accountability and transparency, albeit with some challenges. The law as it exists now proceeds on the presumption that the public officer who is occupying a public office, having declared his assets, is declaring it to the best of his ability and honestly.
Right.
And so until there is reason to believe that the public officer has either not totally and fully complied with the law or has acquired assets outside the remit of his public office with funds that cannot be supported by remuneration, that is when a person can challenge for the production of the declaration of the assets declaration form.
And currently that has to be done at the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice.
Because it affects, I mean, and that is why it sits with the Commission of Human Rights and Administrative Justice. It sits, it affects the fundamental rights of a person to acquire and hold property. And also the protection. I mean, it's a balance between the need to know, right to information, need to know, which is in the Constitution, I think Article 21 or so.
That's correct, Article 21, 1F.
Of the Constitution, and the protection of the individual. Okay, no one can envisage and contemplate what will happen if all public officers declare their assets and these assets are verified and published. How will the criminals in society take up the challenge? I mean, no one can comprehend whether they're going to go after these properties or they're going to go after such persons. No one. And so, and that is why Parliament is hesitant. One, I mean, it involves the changing of the presumption. I mean, from, if you want everybody presumed innocent until proven guilty. I mean, if you want, that is, not exactly the case. And that is just extending the debate, changing the presumption to say, look, we don't believe public officers anymore.
Over the years, there has been this mounting crusade for a review of that regime. What is the purpose of this review if it does not include verification and publication?
I think that basically you spoke about the mischief rule, where the people are saying that, and I must say that I've also been part of the people who have debated for the extension of the regime, but not in the manner in which it is being proposed now.
Okay.
Okay. I had said that evidence clearly shows that public officers are beginning to hide properties that have been acquired while in the public office in the names of spouses and children, and so the regime must be extended to include the access of public office holders and then their children. I mean, public office holders, their children and their wives, because because there's evidence.
I think that is not the emphasis of their call.
That's not the emphasis.
Yes.
They have even gone there. I mean, they've abandoned. Actually, and that debate took place in 2008.
All right.
When we were looking at the regime and action, and many things happened in 2008. And so when we're looking at the regime, this was what we were saying. We should extend it, but just saying that no, we don't trust public officers anymore. Corruption appears to be pervasive. The secrecy surrounding the declarations is making it difficult for us to check whether these officers who are being paid with public monies are doing acts that can properly be said to be corrupt acts and acquiring property by reason of the abuse of their offices. And so why don't you give us the opportunity, get us a law that clearly addresses this issue and put to rest the minds of the public.
Right.
That look, the assets of Honorable Inus of Stain, for example, have been verified after the declaration forms have been filled, and they are now being published. Now, it is not limited to only politicians. It encompasses all public officers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So again, you'll have to look at the cost.
Okay. Now, Tony, do you appreciate their hesitation about getting the assets declared, verified and also gazetted?
I'm sorry, I fail to appreciate it. In fact, on a lighter note, what Honorable just said, that when the assets are declared, he doesn't know whether the armed robbers and miscreants will take up the challenge.
Right.
It's very interesting. It's something I've never averted my mind to. However, I think it is in the interest of public officers themselves, to assist in this declaration, because you see, year on, year out, people are pointing fingers towards public officers, and it is in their own interest, Because anytime the challenge is thrown, that give us the evidence of corruption of public officers or politicians, everyone is quiet. But it smudges their reputations. And these people have wives, families, friends, and some of us, really and truly, sometimes even shy away from being seen in public with our friends who happen to be public officers, just because of that perception. So if, like Honorable said, the frontiers were to be extended, it covers them. So I fail to see the hesitation. Definitely being a human institution, definitely there will be some bad nuts. But the way people spew venom at public officers, in fact, it even makes people shy away from entering politics or taking up public office.
Good people.
Very, very good people. I mean, it takes a hard nut to decide that, look, I'll go to parliament, or even when he's appointed a minister, to accept it, because there seems to be a certain presumption that once you're appointed a minister, you become corrupt.
That's so.
It's sad. But so long as these things are published, verified, and you can't prove anything beyond that, then at least it will save and assuage some of these fears.
Right. Now, there are jurisdictions where, without any compulsion of law, you get people, they declare their assets to the whole world, not even to their country. A good example in Nigeria, Buhari and his wife, soon upon assuming office, decided to do a public declaration of their assets for everybody to know. Why do you think our MPs think this is not something we should be contemplating? And if we have to contemplate at all, not now?
Well, the option of voluntary declaration is out of contest.
Okay.
It's not a substitute for one that is compelled by law. We are talking here of public office. And a lot of things happen in public office. People who hold public office have been entrusted with a lot of resources. And, we need to be sure how they are dealing with those resources. So, as Inusa made it clear, it's the question of accountability that is at stake here. So, if somebody chooses to do a voluntary thing, fine. But as I said, it's not a substitute for the legal requirement that I think has a certain force of law. That's what we should be promoting in terms of good governance. But a quick one, I may be wrong. So the point about criminals and armed robbers, the properties.
He's not alone in suggesting this. I've heard his colleagues also say same.
He's right, and not today.
Right.
It's not today.
Right.
The property subject to declaration under the Act 550.
Right.
These are the properties which shall be declared under this Act are A, lands, houses, and buildings. B, farms. C, concessions. D, trust or family property in respect of which the officer has beneficial interest. E, business interest. F, securities and bank balances. G, bonds and treasury bills. H, jewelry of the value of 5 million cedis or above, objects of act of the value of 5 million or above, life and other insurance policies. Then the last one is J, such other properties are specified on the declaration form. I'm finding it very difficult to see how, if these things are declared and published, the armed robbers or criminals will have access direct to it.
In fact, presently they are even raising the threshold as far as the quantum is concerned.
Yes, I'm finding it very difficult to appreciate that point. So I think it's a red herring that should not be entertained. It's just part of an excuse not to do what modern good governance requires of them. See, it's such a progressive thing to do. There's been a recollection of what the PNDC law 280. The law required that those things are gazetted. It's a form of publication.
That is so.
So at least that was even more progressive in terms of the comparative analysis. So why are we running away? What is this thing? This is like a phobia for verification and publication. And I add frequency as well in terms of how many times you should, be required.
That's an interesting point.
Yes, frequency is also a critical element. It helps. Now it is like you do it when you are coming to office, you do another one when you are exiting. I would love that we find a situation where it's more than that, in between something, a chaos. This whole thing is to cure the mischief, whether real or perceived. Is in the interest, the larger interest of those public office holders, as well as the nation.
The Corruption Perception Index over the years continues to put the politicians up there as perceived as corrupt.
Yes, so I think we should move towards that. I'm surprised, though, that Parliament, being Parliament, that represents the people, that has such proximity to the people, is not feeling the pulse of the people, that this is where our mindset is going. This is where our sentiments are going. Okay, now it is a matter of producing those things on demand. That is before a court of competent jurisdiction, or before a commission of inquiry, or before an investigator of Shraj. Yes, there's some way for us to disclose, but it is not that in terms of coverage, in terms of impact.
All right.
So I vote for what the civil society anti-corruption groups are doing, and I would appeal to Parliament that it's in its own self-enlightened interest if it did move in that progressive direction.
But my brother Abdul Malik Kubako, Parliament is sensitive to the sensibilities of the people and the general perception of corruption in this country. But Parliament also serves as a bulwark for the defense of the fundamental rights of persons.
I agree.
And so when we are doing laws, we don't only look at our enlightened self-interest. We also look at the generality of the Ghanaian citizen and the protection of his rights and liberties under the Constitution in passing those laws.
I didn't see a Chinese war between the enlightened self-interest and the interest of the public. I don't see a Chinese war. I think they must have a certain interrelationship.
Yes. So when we do these things, these are the considerations that agitate and motivate our minds to pass laws that can stand the test of time, and also that can consolidate our democracy and found it on good reason. And so these matters, yes, like I've said, yes, there's general consensus in the House that we need to do something to redeem our reputation, and I agree with you. There is general consensus in the House that probably people entrusted with public office are using them for personal gain and in ways that compromise our development. Yes, but what regime do we put in place that one will balance the need to protect the public purse through legislation of this nature and to the fundamental rights of a person? And so let's continue to debate. I'm sure this thing will come onto the floor of the House. And even whether or not we should use law and order. This particular attempt is an attempt to use law and order to try to cure a mischief. Is the curing of the mischief limited only to the use of law and order? Can we have institutional reforms and regimes that can deal with that without passing a law? I mean, these are things that we can talk about.
Why would anybody be worried about publication of assets and liabilities that were lawfully acquired and perhaps why would anybody be, if it's lawfully acquired, what is it? If you are not in public office, I understand. But once you cross that barrier, that line, and come into public office, you lose some of those privacy elements.
You lose it entirely.
Relative to well, you are saying so.
Then, I mean, once you come into public office, you cannot be squeamish.
Yes.
No way.
No, you lose it entirely. Yes.
As a private citizen, yes, you can keep everything to your chest.
That's right.
But so long as you enter the public space.
Okay. All right. You're still here on Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis show. It's brought to you by Bank of Africa, strong as a group and closer as a partner. MTN, welcome to the new world. Sasso Spray, fresh and powerful. Star Assurance, creating smiles since 1985 and celebrating 30 years of solid partnership. Lipton Tea, the #1 tea brand in the world, and Cowbell Coffee. Smile and have a sunshine day. Now, let's go to Talensi and find out what exactly is going on. As you know, the NPP and the NDC particularly are engaged in, a fight. I mean, friendly fights, if you like, to get that seat. And that seat was declared vacant following the installation of the MPP MP for that constituency, as the paramount chief of the Talensi traditional area, or the Tongo traditional area. And so Robert Mosori is now a chief, and because of that, there ought to be a by-election, and the Speaker of Parliament did declare the place as vacant now. So the NPP and the NPP is trying to retain the seat. The NDC is trying to wrestle the seat back, because since 1996, that seat has been under the NPP until 2012. Has been under the NDC until 2012, when the NPP won that seat. Freddie Blay is the first vice chair of the New Patriotic Party. Good morning and welcome to the show, sir. Hello, good morning, Mr. Freddie Blay.
Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Welcome to Newsfile. We want to know, we had information that at 7 a.m. Today, there was going to be a press conference in the capital of the Upper East Region, Bolgatanga, because the NPP has problems with the police and the Electoral Commission. What exactly are these concerns?
Yes, we had a press conference this morning. We addressed it, and it's over two issues that we were sharing concern with the public, particularly over a proposed rally that MPP had over 10 days ago indicated that we wanted to have it at some place at Bongo, and we've written letters to the police informing them of our intention and asked for their protection and policing for that event. And we were okay with it until 3 days ago, when they asked us to come back. They wrote a letter to say that they have a problem with the venue on that day, and that apparently there had been earlier letter, according to them, written by the NDC to have they have their own rally on the same premises, at the same location. We were surprised at it. We met them to have some kind of compromise as to what to do. They suggested some other venue in another town. We were not happy with it, but we agreed. Only for us, we told us at yesterday through a telephone call that now even that new place that they themselves suggested to us, we can have our rallies on Sunday.
Interesting.
And that because the president will be around maybe to address the rally of the NDC, and therefore they will not allow us to have ours. We're not happy with it, and that's why we called for the press conference. We addressed the public about it. As I'm talking to you now, we've come to visit the commander of the region, the police commander of the region, and we are discussing the matter. We haven't agreed to it as of yet.
But by your public pronouncement at the press conference, you are intent on defying the police because you think that they are being mischievous and being untruthful in the manner they are seeking to treat you.
Well, we've done that, but we also indicated at the press conference that we will have a meeting with them. For them to insist that change your position, that's fair enough, we did it. Now you come again and say that we will not allow you even to have your
alternative
rally at all. We think that's not fair, and then we say that we insist on having it. But we are discussing with them, and what maybe there will be a compromise that we could reach about it. That's what the position is. That is the first one.
Yes, the second one with the EC.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead with the second one with the EC.
The second one, we drew the attention of the media to the issue that we have been faced with, indeed, the problem that under the CI 75, the Electoral Commission is supposed to provide us with names of those who are going to officiate, that is, presiding officers and the assistants, so that if we have very good reason to protest against any other or to object to any other individual who is being included as officiating. More so, maybe the person could be an active member or could be an activist of a political party. We have the right under the law to object so that they could have a position on it, either change or justify it. We, as I talk to you now, we've not been provided with a list. We don't know who are going to officiate. And we have it in the rumor mill that about over 100 and something individuals from the one political party are going to be the people officiating for this election. And we are not happy with it. So we are protesting. We are going to have an IPAC meeting with the EC this morning. That is about 10:30 this morning. But definitely we are not happy with the way the EC is treating us, even over this by-election in Talensi.
I see. Thank you very much. We wish you fruitful deliberations with the police and also with the EC so that these issues can be resolved amicably, so we don't have problems in Talensi as the by-election kicks off.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Freddie Blay is the first national vice chairman of the New Patriotic Party, and you just heard him. Kwaku, this issue has been in the media for a while now, about 2-3 days now, about this development that they applied 10 days ago. They were told that they were giving the all clear that you can do your rally at the Tongo place. Only 3 days, ago, to be told that you cannot have that place because the NDC had already put in an application which had been granted, even though that application was not in our office at the time you came. It was in the pocket of the regional commander. And then, you asked them to take an alternative route. They agreed to that alternative route, only for you to call them back again and tell them that alternative space is also not available because the president will be in town and will need that space.
What a mess. Avoidable, needless mess. And I blame the police. Regardless of how much they rationalize this situation, is due to a certain lapse or ineptitude on the part of the police machinery. The Ghanaian police, I know, is quite professional. I think to a large extent they've done well for the nation. But this is a by-election. One constituency out of 275. We can't manage it with finesse, with equity, with fairness. We can't. So we are going to allow some chaos. It doesn't make sense to me. I blame the police. Now they are telling us that the NDC brought its request first, although I'm told it's dated July 19th. That could be a typo. I'm prepared to grant that, the benefit of doubt, even though it reminded me of something that happened in 1995 when the ECDRs went to the police with the letter requesting to be allowed to also demonstrate the same day the AFC demonstration was on. The letter they brought it on the 9th, when the attention was called to the fact that on the 11th is only 2 days, so they didn't meet the 5-day request notice. They said, oh, but look at the letter, it's dated 2nd. The letter was dated 2nd, but it arrived on the 9th to the police. And on the basis of that, they were able to get their way through and they went on the streets and nobody took any action against them. I'm hoping, I thought we'd left that stage. How many years gone? So it's the police fault, but you see, we need a solution. We need to cure the mischief.
Right.
And they're saying that anywhere a president goes, it has security implications. No doubt about that.
Yes, he has
it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be this president, any president. So that factor, it's in there. Unless if the president himself looks at the overall picture and decides that, look, what is this? This is a one constituency thing. I will not go there in order to, send dynamics here and there. It could done. The president could do so. Otherwise, I would make a passionate appeal to the NPP. The unfortunate thing here is that the elections are only 2 or 3 days away. That's is key. But I believe that the rally alone per se won't give you much if you haven't done anything earlier on the ground. So if indeed there can be an alternative venue, fine. If there cannot be, let them defer their rally by a day and let the police be able to deal with it. That is, if the president is going to be there.
Well, very
and the
interesting.
EC one.
Very interesting, but it does appear that a deferment of the rally by a day means that they will not be able to have the rally because the hours before the rally.
No, yes, but then they have to look
prohibited.
at. They have to bend the law in this case. Otherwise, we are going for chaos.
Oh, interesting. But you suggest that maybe the president could also decide that, look, I don't need to go to this place anymore. But there are those who have a feeling that the president will have, will feel that winning this election is a verdict that confirms that I am doing a good job, or the NDC is doing a good job in government. So you will not allow such a thing to happen?
I think that's an overrating of the value of that by-election. It's an overrating, and sometimes it's done for propagandist purposes.
Oh, of course, and propaganda capital is important.
Yes, but I mean, let's have a sense of proportion and be able to put it in the context that it belongs. As for propaganda, we can't stop it. People will do it. People will go all out there and masturbate, propaganda-wise. But what can you do about it? Okay, just have a sense of proportion that this is a country we are governing, and these are the security implications. It's so unfortunate that the police has caused this mess. Maybe the IGP should take a closer look at the workings of the police in that region relative to this issue, and if there's a need for any disciplinary action against those particular officers involved in this, that too is something I would recommend. Okay,
very interesting. Honorable, what do you make of what is going on there? Because this is supposed to be, like Koku said, a small election in a small place. Yes, the seat has been won by the NDC since we got into the Fourth Republic, except that in 2012, John Kolgotia lost it to the NPP.
They're stronger there than any of the parties. Yes, that is stronger in that constituency.
Yes. I think that I thought you would have gone to my senior, Don Forson, because I'm an interested third party in this matter.
Yes. Yes. This is the reason I want to speak to you, because you have a vested interest.
But let me agree entirely with Okubako. This is when institutions of state should begin to up their game and level up with people who are parties in an issue. I mean, context is about, or the elections is about context and determining the leadership of Tongo, who represents the people in Tongo. So, and in this democratic dispensation that we are in, this is the way that we choose our leaders. Go into a contest. The contest must be open, free, and transparent for all to participate. And so institutions of state have a critical role to play. And you see, these institutions of state are really institutions of state. I mean, they don't belong to the NPP, neither do they belong to the NDC. They will survive the parties in government. And so I think that, and that is why I support Mr. Kokobako. And next year I'm going to get him a ticket to go to Hajj. I'm always tempted.
You will not decline.
I'm always tempted to call him a large. Okay. And you see, so when the institutions are up to the game and they become open, transparent, and accountable, then we build and repose confidence in them. Okay, and so that's to the police and even the Electoral Commission. I mean, it has been around since 1992, and we've seen some remarkable improvement in the way they've gone about conducting elections. We've seen some innovations like the IPAC, which clearly has sought to diffuse tensions within parties.
That's right.
Which even though non-constitutional, but has played a very important role in galvanizing consensus.
To the point that there are now even suggestions to give it a legislative backing.
Yeah. So clearly, so EC must up their game too. I mean, people want to know who are the presiding officers at polling stations. I mean, when I'm contesting elections, I want to know who is where. Was he, an active member of a political party?
Particularly that the law provides that you should know them in advance so that you may protest.
You see. Right. And notice of those persons is very important in consolidating and ensuring acceptability of election results, and also the integrity of the election. So these are all institutions, and we as a politician belonging to a political party and as a citizen of state, I think basically I will go the way Obama said we should go. Let's build the institutions.
Thank you very much. You speak very well. And now I get your senior. You had wanted me to get to him first. Now, see, doesn't this also suggest and bring in the anti-corruption group again, where they have been advocating for the chairman of the RECSEC, the Regional Security Council, who is normally the head of the security issues when it comes to these matters, that person ought not be to be the regional minister. Because if the regional minister is a party person, and if you put him as a head of the institution, he will dictate to the police what to do.
It's a difficult one, you see, but sometimes using the doctrine of necessity, these persons have to be there. It's a chicken and egg situation. I mean, a bit dicey that, of course, the regional minister represents the president.
Right.
Therefore, he has a certain vested interest. However, the machinery of state also has to run. You cannot say that the head of the RECSEC should be the leader of the opposition in the region. It's not possible. You see, so same thing. I mean, we've entrusted them with a lot of power, and we believe that trust will be, exercised judiciously. So I agree with the two submissions which have been made, especially with what Honorable said. I mean, the institutions of state must be seen to be acting fairly, because these are the things that repose confidence in the Electoral Commission, in the democratic system, in the electoral system.
The police may be tempted that if their orders are defied, they may be tempted on Monday to go get an injunction to restrain them. Would you propose that they do so if their orders are defied?
See, the problem that Kweku initiated was the fact that the moment the president goes there,
right,
the security implications
all
change.
other rights are,
but
subservient.
I heard you ascribing, or was it Freddie Blee, ascribing the president's actions to the NDC. Then it means that he's not performing a national
state
function.
Assignment.
Once it becomes the NDC, then you see the equities have changed.
Okay.
Then it means that the MPP who were first in time ought to be given the privilege. But if he's performing a national function, then he supersedes all of us.
Very, very, very interesting. Now,
this is just thinking out loud.
Briefly, I've Mr. Ernest Kofi Abuchi on the phone line. Okay. He's going to be part of all the discussions that we are going to have the whole morning. But quickly, I'll just bring him in.
Taking a long shot, assuming the NPP ends up not having the opportunity to run this rally and that the election takes place, their rights would have been violated.
Right.
Maybe they have to look at a legal remedy. The police could be sued.
Okay. Well, he says the police could be sued, and now the IGP has been proposing something or seeking to enforce something that exists. That if you bring a certain liability upon the police, you will be held personally liable, so that the IGP doesn't continue, or the police as a state does not continue to incur debts, call them judgment debts or whatever they are, compensation payments, because of your actions which are wrongful. Yes. So you do it and you're held responsible.
The MPP, they've spent money, resources towards this event.
Right. Let's have Ernest Kofi Abuchi, who is the Dean of the GIMPA Law Faculty or Law School, on the line. Thank you very much, Ms. Abuchi, for joining us on the phone, and thank you for your patience to be with us on the phone throughout the show. Briefly, what do you have to say about the two issues we have looked at quickly, and then we'll move on to the matters that require your expertise a lot more?
Good morning, Ken. Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Abuchi.
Good morning, Samson.
Good morning.
Sorry, I was actually just put on a line, so if you can just give me a snapshot of the discussion you were talking about.
Okay, so the issues as you have been, brought to your attention before today. First of all, the Declaration of Assets regime being reviewed in Parliament, and the Anti-Corruption Coalition asking and insisting that the review must include mandatory provision requiring verification of the assets declared and publication of the assets declared. And number two, the issue that is political as far as Talinsi by-elections is concerned, that we just have been speaking to.
Okay. Thank you. I think I can speak to the verification of the assets part. I'm not sure the drift of the conversation in respect of the Talency by-election. Again, as I said, I was just put on the line. But in terms of the verification of the assets, clearly the original intention of the constitutional framers when they actually inserted that in the original constitution was to ensure that public officers do not amass wealth at the expense of the state in a manner that cannot be accounted for, and in a manner which is not justified. Of course, the experience we've had since 1992 till today has made a mockery of the process, and people have basically declared assets which, have declared assets either in excess of what they actually owned at the time of assuming public office, or otherwise, declare things that people will find a joke.
You mean people could declare in excess of what they have in anticipation of, acquiring those assets later? Is that the case?
That appears to have been the practice in some cases.
Right.
Because the verification process hasn't been well done in terms of, first of all, establishing whether people actually own the assets they claim they own, or in terms of tracing assets that people have acquired after they have assumed office. The thing is, it's a reflection of our general experience as a country, where it's very difficult to establish ownership of assets and tracing assets and ensuring that people actually own them, or that people do not acquire assets in the name of other persons. All these difficulties are there. And so unless and until we have actually come to a point where we sanitize our registration processes in terms of asset ownership, and where we're able to establish instruments that help us trace assets, even where they are actually where they are acquired in the name of other persons, unless we get to that point, laws are always meant to avert human mischief. But human mischief invariably is a step ahead of the law. So if we do not have instruments and processes that help us to avert some of this mischief, we can always continue passing the laws, but I'm afraid we may not actually achieve the purposes for which they are acquired. So we are not yet there in terms of coming up with processes and instruments and mechanisms that help us uncover assets that have been acquired, particularly in the name of other persons, or assets that are claimed to have been acquired in anticipation of they actually being acquired when they have in fact not been acquired. These have been the experiences post 1992 when we adopted the Constitution. I think that the laws as it evolves, in my opinion, estimation, we have not yet gotten to a point where we will overcome those mischiefs.
Okay, now there are two aspects. They say, first of all, there ought to be verification, so that if you put your declared assets in that piece of paper in the envelope, the Auditor General, who's a custodian, should be able to open it up and be sure what you have put in there, and be sure that you have not just submitted an empty paper. Be sure that you have not put in that you have 10 houses when indeed you have only 5, but you are criminally thinking of how to acquire 5 more by corrupt practices. But they are asking that they should move beyond that and to publish the assets declared. And they are referring to a PNDC law which mandated or requires so that the assets declared are gazetted, so that at least we can all go to the government press and find out what is there. Is that a fair requirement?
It's absolutely fair. I mean, even beyond the law. And there are some things the Constitution doesn't make provision for. There are some things the Constitution doesn't prescribe or doesn't prevent. For these things, good governance requires that even a person who is actually making these declarations should be willing enough to say that my declaration should be made public.
Okay.
First of all, what is the essence of declaration? The essence of declaration is basically to uncover or for transparency purposes to make known to third parties.
Interesting
point.
point.
If declarations are made and they are sealed in envelopes and they are put on files and they are put somewhere else, clearly the whole process is truncated. The essence of a declaration is to make known. And so once the declaration is made, for good governance purposes and in the interest of transparency and in the person's own interest, this should be published. You are basically telling the public that this is what I have, and that post my assumption of office, should I acquire any assets? And let's be clear, nobody's saying that any office holder cannot acquire an asset after assuming office.
Okay.
The essence of the declaration is that we want to trace the source of your acquisition so that for anti-corruption purposes, we can be able to establish that these acquisitions were legitimate, that they correspond to your earnings during your period in office, or that they correspond to gifts that you got during your period in office.
Right.
Or otherwise, if you are not able to establish these, there can be an assumption or presumption of corruption, and for purposes of investigation, these may be uncovered. So it's important that at least we understand the essence, and I think we have not really paid attention to the essence, and that has partly accounted for how this has been gone about over the period.
Thank you very much. I'm taking a quick break at this point, and when we return, we'll subject the GBA's writ that it is filed before the Supreme Court over the appointment of Supreme Court judges and Court of Appeal judges to some scrutiny. They claim that that suit has absolutely nothing to do with the appointment of Justices Yao Appel and Gabriel Poamang. If it has nothing to do with them, then what's the point of the suits? Tony Forsing is here, and he will explain that to us. We'll be right back.